Hello, and welcome again to the ongoing online versions of Music Humanity for Spring 2020, Section 24, and I'm Brad. Okay, today we're going to be dealing with the fallout from sort of the two big models of the early 20th century. Igor Stravinsky, with The Rite of Spring, kind of his intuitive, free-flowing atonality, his approach that he adopted back then. And in contradistinction to that, Arnold Schoenberg, who was looking at the theoretical and music theoretical underpinnings of atonality and came up with his serial system. And those two kind of poles, I guess you'd call them, kind of played out through the rest of the 20th century. And we're going to look at somebody who definitely followed Schoenberg's model in the 20th century. We're going to be talking about a composer named Milton Babbitt. Okay, and he was born in 1916 and lived to 2011. He was born in Philadelphia, but raised in Jackson, Mississippi. His father was a mathematician, and Milton was going to be a mathematician too, but he was seduced by music, as many people are, and decided to pursue music composition. And got a job actually on the faculty of Princeton University, where he'd attended. And basically, Milton is responsible for musical academia as it exists today, along with a couple of guys from Columbia. I'm referring to him by first name because I actually studied with Milton towards the very end of his academic teaching career at Princeton back in the 1980s. He's a character. Anyhow, he was completely enamored of Schoenberg's system because it combined the mathematical aspects of the world that he so loved with his musical aspects that he so loved. And he was able to meld the two of them into a very, very rarefied form of serialism. And let me play you a piece of his. This is his String Quartet No. 5. And this is composed using not just the serial system for pitches that Schoenberg was promulgating, but also he applied serialism to articulations, to dynamics, to all the different aspects of music. Again, also following the footsteps of Schoenberg's student Anton Webern, who was applying it to timbre and things like that. But here's a little bit of what Milton's music sounds like. Okay, so that gives you a sense of this music. You can listen to the whole thing online on my website. It goes on for about another 30 or 40 minutes, so it's a substantial piece, and Milton wrote a lot of music. He was also very involved in the development of electronic music, specifically here at Columbia, but we'll talk about that later in the term. So, like I said, Milton was responsible for getting music installed as an academic pursuit, specifically something that you could major and get a doctorate in. And let me show you an example of his writing and kind of how he was able to accomplish that. This is what he wrote about one of his pieces. The importance of transpositional complementation alone would serve to suggest the systematic operation of inversion designated I, which is definable as complementation mod 12 of each pitch number of S, as opposed to the complementation of the T applied to all pitch numbers of S. Yeah, you get the idea. This is basically, set theory, such as it was. And the operations that he's bringing in from mathematics are set theoretical operations that he applied to the 12-tone set. And it was through those manipulations that he wrote his music. So, pretty dense stuff. Definitely a lot of scientific kind of trappings for this. And Again, this somehow gave it legitimate currency in the positivistic academic world of the 1950s. Now, Milton gained a bit of notoriety for this. A lot of people said this music is just extraordinarily difficult to listen to. It's not music. It doesn't do anything for them. It doesn't convey any emotions, all kinds of stuff. So to counter that, Milton published an article in a magazine called Stereo Review, which was a pretty widespread popular magazine for people who were serious about music and listening and such back in the 1960s. And he titled it The Composer as Specialist. The idea being that, to really get into this, you had to have this knowledge of how music operated, because they were doing like the most advanced music stuff there was. Now, Stereo Review's editors read the article and relabeled the title, and this is what gained notoriety. They titled it, Who Cares If You Listen? And that question has been dogging a lot of serial composers, a lot of academic composers for the rest of their lives. And we'll be talking about this in class. But there was obviously a reaction to this hyper-intellectual academic music, and we'll talk about that in the next video.